show you these spikes real quick.
Yeah, like 10 seconds. Yeah, that's perfect for the arm thing.
Red, black,
That's
gold.
perfect.
Sure. All right, Shalom Israel. Y'all about to Yahshua where we come. Y'all smart to come about Yahshua. It's the ISUPK weekly Hebrew class, right? Lashawan Qadash. So of course, the Lashawan Qadash is this language here, the Hebrew, right? Lashawan Qadash, transliterated into the English or translated into the English is Holy Tongue, which is what the Hebrew is. The Most High God gave children of Israel his own language, right? His own language, and that's the language that we teach every Friday, right? Today, like I said, I kind of want to jump right on into it because I know we got a slightly late start. All right. So today we will be going over imperfect tense. Imperfect tense normally, when you go into any sort of linguistics, right? Imperfect tense is talking about something that happened in the past. So we're going to go over that. We're also going to have, we're also going to go over things that have happened, things that will happen in the future. So we're going to go over, he will do this, he will do that, right? She will, they will, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. We'll get a kind of a clear understanding, right, once we start getting these examples up here. But once again, we'll also go over the imperfect tense, which talks about what was done in the past, right? If you know anything about tense, right? Tense. If you watch it online, you can see it up there. Tense is one of three things. You have past tense, you have present tense. So past tense is something that you say happened before. So he was this, or you know what I'm saying, anything along those lines, right? He did this, right? Or it could be present tense. Present tense would be he is doing this, right? Or he's doing this, whatever the case is, that's present tense is talking about right now. And you have future tense, which is what we'll cover actually first, which is he is going to do this or he will do this, right? We'll get a full understanding of it. Before we get started, make sure everybody like and share the class. On the very bottom of the screen, you can see our class schedule, our class location. Every Tuesday through Friday, from 7 to 9 p.m. We have our classes here. Also, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, which tomorrow we have our Sabbath service here, 10 a.m., 12416 128 Drive, right? Got all that information right there on the screen for you. Before we get started with getting this lesson on, I had a brother come up. He's going to basically, all the things that you see right here, you have the ancient Hebrew and you have the Assyrian Hebrew or the modern Hebrew. The brother's going to go ahead and rewrite those things here on this big board. The reason why we do that, just as a side note, is because the practice is what's going to help you become efficient and proficient in the Hebrew language. The more that you write these characters down, the more that you start writing words down, the more that you start to recite these things, that's what's going to help you to learn that Hebrew even faster, right? I hate saying this, but practice makes perfect. The reason why I hate saying this is because it's such a Christian white guy thing to say, but it's true. The more that you practice, the more that you're going to perfect your craft, right? So that's why we had a trooper every class. He come up, he write these same things, he writes these things. Because that muscle memory that he gets, when he thinks, okay, I know it's ah, ba, ga, da. He writes those characters, he's gonna now remember those things from muscle memory. So you can come up and handle that for me, brother.
Sir.
I appreciate it. Any color. These ones you gotta remember. You can always check to your left when you
I already took mine. I already took mine.
All right, excellent work from the brother. Of course, learning these things is not easy. You know what I'm saying? Learning this language is not easy because this is a language that's been stripped of you. You know what I'm saying? From your people. So what you have here in the black is the ancient Hebrew, which is what, of course, is right here. Right? This will be up the entire class. If you're able to see it, I know it's kind of small online, but most people can see it. If you can't see it, you can always leave a comment, and we can actually get your email and send you an ISUPK sheet of these character sets. Right now, what the brother did in black is the ancient Hebrew, which is our native tongue, which is literally, if you go back thousands of years, this is what black people were writing. Right? You go into the archaeology. Black people were writing in this language and in this script, right? So now, then of course, in the red, you have the Assyrian Hebrew, or what's known as the modern Hebrew. If you buy a Tanakh or any sort of so-called Jewish writing today, they're going to be written in this language. Not only just this, but they're also going to have the Nikud system, which has dots. Every goddamn there's going to be dots here, here. Right? If you've ever read the so-called modern Hebrew, that's what you'll see. All right. But we teach this. The reason why we teach it is because we have to understand how to read the modern Hebrew, right? Which is what no fake Jew understands how to read, right? They read it in the sense of Yiddish and Aramaic, right? We read it based off of the Lashawan Qadash, which is the Holy Tongue, which is what dates back to when the Most High first gave us, the Israelites, our language. All right. So, but once again, both of these things are going to be up here, right here, right? The entire class. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna erase this. We're gonna get right into the class. You got the what's used to erase?
A paper towel, sir.
Right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase this, right? And all right, we're going to kind of jump right into the class. Like I said, we're going to go over imperfect tense. We're actually going to focus on imperfect tense, but we'll get into some other tenses as well, right? It's this is a class, so anybody that has any questions, anything like that, you can, of course, type in the comments. Let us know if you have any questions about anything at all. And, of course, we'll do our best to answer those things, right? So first, we're going to begin with a couple of phrases, right? I'm going to use the term shamar, right? I'm going to use the term shamar because that's a term that is very easy to understand. It's not a million definitions for it, it's just two. Shamar means to watch or guard. I'm not going to write that up there, right? But shamar means to watch or to guard, right? So now, we're going to get a few phrases, and this is going to be not in the imperfect tense, right? This is going to be in the future tense, and then we'll after this, we'll convert it into the imperfect tense. All right, we're going to start. And what I'll do is I'll write it all out in English, and then I'll write it out in the Hebrew after I get all these, right? Remember, guard is shamar in the Hebrew, right? So I'll put that in there. All right. Let's see. All right, so now we have 5 different expressions here, 5 different phrases, okay? The subject, or excuse me, the verb is the same. The subject changes in each one of these 5 different phrases. So the verb is guard, right? And if you want to get more specific, will guard, meaning in the future. So this is not imperfect tense. This is future tense. Okay? So now you have we will guard. All right? This is how you're going to do this, right? For future tense. So now for we will guard, right? In the future tense, because once again it's going to change depending on the tense, right? Past tense we'll go over next, which is the imperfect tense. But for right now, we're talking about future tense, right? And this is na shamar, all right? That's for we will guard, right? Now, you will guard, talking about you, right? Speaking to somebody. It's ta shamar. All right? That's how you would say you will guard in the future. For instance, let's see. Okay, so like for instance, if you want to say, I'm gonna talk to Kabbalah mouth, right? So what I would say, if I want to say you're gonna guard in the morning, what you're gonna say is you will guard, which is tashamar. You will say tashamar ma, right, which is in ma habawakwar, which means the morning, right? So you would say tashamar ma habawakwar. That's what you would say. You're gonna guard in the morning. You're gonna watch that door in the morning. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you're gonna formulate that type of a sentence. The point being is just specifically speaking on the tenses, that's you, right? Tashamar. And one thing that helped me remember that is the term you in the Hebrew is atha, right? The term you, I'm gonna write it real quick and I'm gonna erase it, is atha. That's what you is, right? So what kind of helped me a little bit, I don't know where I put that over here. What kind of helped me a little bit was for me to understand when I'm talking about you, it's tashamar, or let's just say remember, right? Remember is a car. What you will remember would be car, right? So what helps me remember the you here, the tha, is atha means you. We say it in our blessing, right, in our salute. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barak atha, which means the Most High in the name of Christ bless you. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good thing that you might want to maybe take down in your notes, so that way you can kind of understand, or it's something that'll help you remember the tha. All right. So now we have they will guard. This one's a little bit different, right? So now we have the ya and the wa, which make the difference on this one. Which they will guard is ya shamar wa, right? So now it's a little bit more tricky when it comes to an instance like this or a scenario like this, because now not only do you have a prefix, so-called, right? You don't call it that in Hebrew, but just because we're talking about learning from an English standpoint, you have a prefix ya and a suffix wa. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's going to tell you in that, in damn near every case where you have a verb, that's how you're going to do they will in the future tense. Once again, like I said, you will go over the past tense and you're going to see a big difference, right? So you want to make sure if you're watching this class that you're taking notes, because you want to be able to compare and contrast the two. Practice both of them. Once again, like I said last week, these words, I'm using shamar because it's an easy word, but we also do vocabulary classes where it's nothing but vocabulary, where you get these verbs. You get some of these verbs, and now you can start to plug in some of these tenses to those verbs. So you want to make sure that you're taking notes in that sense, right? All right. Now we got he will guard, right? This is actually a brother's name in the school, a captain's name in the school, Yashamar. So you got ya, right? That's going to tell you that it's masculine. The Yashamar is going to tell you that it's masculine, okay? That's a real simple one. Now, what I will say is this next one can throw people for a loop sometimes. Sometimes it can throw people for a loop because she will guard, right? Talking about a female, talking about a woman. The feminine version of he will guard, the feminine of Yashamar, is the same as you will guard, which is Vashamar. All right, so that can throw people for a loop sometimes. But you want to make sure you take these notes so that way you can understand these things, because what comes after this, what comes after learning these words is understanding context, right? What's going to happen is when you begin to speak the Hebrew fluently, right? These two terms are the same. Thashamar for you will guard and Thashamar for she will guard are the exact same term. Not the same term, but the same spelling, the same pronunciation. In a conversation, the only thing that will help you to differentiate between these two is the context, right? Now, in English, people will understand, right? I'm talking to you. So they're going to say, you're going to guard, right? But if there's a woman that they're referring to, they would say, she's going to guard, right? Of course, a woman doesn't have the same, burden that the men do. She's probably not going to guard the door. She's probably going to guard the kids or something when you go on. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. The context is what's going to matter, is my point. Okay? Because once again, these are very similar. When I say similar, I mean you have you will guard and she will guard. The actual term itself is exactly the same, right? The only difference is the subject. The only difference is the subject that this is referring to, this term is referring to. Okay? I'm going to leave this up here for a minute. I was thinking maybe we could do, if you don't mind, do the ancient Hebrew up here in the green, and just do it directly below. And this is strictly for note-taking purposes, right? For the brother to be able to do this. They should be able to see it. I would hope so. But just, you know what I'm saying, try to just do it directly under. Directly under. All right. And once again, this is strictly for note-taking purposes. You want to take notes on how to, because of course I'm writing these things in Hebrew, in English letters, but you want to also understand, because this is a Hebrew class, you want to understand how to write these things out in Hebrew characters. All right, so that's why he's going to have that example up there for you. All right, we're going to leave it up there for just a couple of minutes. So that way anybody that wants to take notes, you can take notes, right? If anybody's having trouble seeing these things on online or on their computer, on their phone, or whatever the case is, just type it in the comments. You know what I'm saying? We can get you right. All right, we'll leave it up there for a couple more minutes, and then we'll move on to the imperfect tense of these same terms. All right. Hopefully everybody got this down. If not, once again, this is on Facebook and YouTube. If you missed anything, you are of course able to go back and watch these videos. They stay up until the white man takes them down. So you can go back and you can take notes. If you're a little bit slower at taking notes, no sweat. Just come back and watch the video after the live. All right. Now we're going to get into the imperfect tense. All right. In fact, go ahead and make that title change. Everybody understands now at this point that shamar means to guard. To guard or to watch. It's the same thing. Literally the same thing. English makes those two things different, but if you're watching something, you guarding it. All right. All right, now we're going to go over the imperfect tense, which it's just a fancy word or a fancy term to say past tense, right? Past tense is what we're about to get into. All right. So now we are going to get into the past tense, which same terms that we just went over. If you're taking notes, that's a good thing because now you're going to be able to compare and contrast. So now we were guarding. All right, we got that. You were guarding. Right. You have they were guarding a group of people. And then, of course, you have he and she were guarding. So you have he was guarding. And she. Now, these are really important terms here. The way that you set these sentences up and the way that you set these phrases up means a lot in the Hebrew, right? You have to set these phrases up properly because the way that the Hebrew is, if you get the way that you translate these wrong in any sense, you could be saying something completely different. I think a lot of people say that about Spanish too. You know what I'm saying? Because there's certain words that sound very similar, right? But they're not the same. So if you say the wrong term, nobody's gonna be what the hell you talking about, or you're gonna offend somebody. With the Hebrew, you gotta be kind of the same way. Not only do some of the words sound similar, but the way that you phrase your sentences means a lot with the Hebrew. Because a lot of the, and of course, I teach this all the time, context, right? The reason why I teach context so much is because there are certain things that you can say that you can tell somebody that your hair is on fire, or you can tell them that you're angry, and you're saying the same exact words, right? That's context. That's why it matters so much, okay? So we want to make sure that we pay attention to classes like this, even though they might be tedious, even though they might not seem like they mean as much. We want to pay attention to these classes because if you truly care about speaking the Hebrew, you have to get every single element down. You know what I'm saying? So now we got what we got. We were guarding first. So now this one's actually, if you're the UPK, you kind of understand. Shamar Noah, right? So now that I'm gonna call it a suffix just because everybody that's watching this class is somewhat understands English, right? So now the suffix nawa means us or our, right? In this case, because we're talking about the imperfect tense, the past tense, we were guarding. Shamar nawa means we were guarding, right? It's talking about a collective of people. It's talking about us, right? Next we have, we got so now we got you were guarding, right? This is a really simple one, right? Now I'm putting these dashes here just so everybody can understand. The dashes, of course, normally would not go in between the middle of a word. That's still one word, okay? So now, the way that you would say this, right, is, so of course, we're talking about you were guarding. Of course, everybody in the UPK understands at least, right? A thou means you, right? And so because that's the case, the you is going to be the first word that you say in this phrase here. So atha, and then shamartha. That shamartha connects this action, which is to guard, and connects it to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's, of course, it's a little bit easier to understand if you're in the UPK. If you're not, then of course a little bit of a learning curve. But of course, we all understand that atha is you, right? And then so the next one is they. Matter of fact, Salaki. 1 second. Proper way to spell atha. Don't forget that H there. That's how you want to spell that. If of course, now of course we're talking about English letters, right? If you typing these things out, that's the proper way to spell atha. All right. So now we have they were guarding, right? Now this is where you want to. This is where it gets a little bit different, right? So hum, right? Hum. So hum shamar what? That's how you would say they were guarding or they were watching, right? This is one of the ones that, like I said, a lot of these have a lot of different variations. That's why Hebrew is the way Hebrew is set up. It's just such a, it's an eloquent language in the sense that every little thing that you say matters. You know what I'm saying? So this has a totally different setup than in the future tense, right? The imperfect tense is completely different than the future tense. You know what I'm saying? Because of course, if you go back and you look at they will guard, which is basically this, but in the future tense, it just means yashamar. It just translates to yashamar wa, yashamar wa. But now this is totally different, right? Because now it has hum, and this is not connected to the same word. Two separate words, two separate terms. Hum, shamar wa. You know what I'm saying? So, just you know what I'm saying, small differences, big differences. The biggest deal that you want to make out of this is that there's a difference that within the context of a conversation is going to change the context. You know what I'm saying? So now he was guarding, right? So now we got all of these already. Now we got he was guarding. Anybody that, you know what I'm saying, that has watched these classes, right? Hawa'a means he, right? Hawa'a means he, all right? And then, of course, Shamar. So, like I said, anybody that's watched our classes, they of course, have been able to understand that when scriptures or anything, right, anything in Hebrew referring to he, it's Hawa'a, right? Hawa'a, right? Just to separate it for you, you got ha, wa, and those things, when you pronounce it, it's Hawa'a, all right? Hawa'a Shamar. So now the interesting thing about Hebrew is you don't always have what the English has. Like for instance, Hawa'a means he, right? Shamar means watch. Literally, watch, not watching, right? Not watched, nothing like that. Literally just means watch or guard, right? So if you were to read this with an English brain, you're gonna read he watch. That's gonna be like some retarded baby. You know what I'm saying? I don't say retarded baby. You know, babies, do that a lot. I apologize. Point being is, you would read that like he watch or he guard, right? But because of the context of of the conversation, you're going to understand that this is talking about a past tense situation, meaning something that's already happened. He was guarding. You know what I'm saying? So that's important to remember too. And I could do a whole class. I could do a whole 10 classes on the context and why the context matters in this Hebrew language, because it does so much. Because there, like once again, there are phrases that you can say that are the same thing, sound the same, but they mean something totally different. All right. I just showed you that with the thashamar. The thashamar can mean you will watch or you will guard, or it can also mean she will guard. So the context means so much. There's so many examples of that. Like I said, I couldn't even get into all of it. All right. So now what's next? We got she was guarding, right? All right. Haya'ah shamarha, right? Which means she was guarding. That's in the past tense. You know what I'm saying? So, it's really simple. You know what I'm saying? And these things, of course, like once again, these small differences make such a big difference, right? Like for instance, when it's talking about a she, it's haya'ah. When it's talking about a he, hawa'ah. Those differences make a difference. Now, one thing that I will point out is that, for instance, um, I'll point out the difference between, like, for instance, like for shar, the term for prince in the Hebrew is shar, right? The term for prince, excuse me, for princess in the Hebrew is shara, right? There's always a slight difference when it comes to masculine, which is he, and feminine, which is she, right? You always want to make a note of that in your head when you're reading these things, and then of course, never lean unto your own understanding and be like, okay, that must mean this because I see a ha here. Because there's sometimes when you can see a ha, it's actually masculine. So that's a rabbit hole that I do not want to get down or go down right now. All right. But these are the terms that you really want to study. Now, once again, like I said, you can take these imperfect tenses and you can add any verb to these. So it doesn't have to be guarded. It can be remembered, right? Or remembering, or will remember, right? Which is a car, right? And you can take the shamar, and take it and replace it with another verb. You know what I'm saying? You can do that, right? So that's what I want. That's the reason for these classes, is so that way you can plug in your own terms, your own verbs, so that way now you can formulate a sentence in a lot of different ways, right? Which is really important when you're trying to learn the Hebrew. All right. If I could, go ahead and take. You can take the green. You can just do. You can do the Assyrian and the ancient, just so that way the people can get an understanding of the difference of these two here, right?
Lucky, sir. But this set is this one expression or is this two sets?
Tanya with the dashes, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same word, but it's just separated just to show the difference.
a real underrated song out?
Who's that, sir?
I say underrated, like it's like Lost is Flame.
Mm-hmm.
New York by Ja Rule.
Ah,
You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah.
New York, yeah. Kiss on it. Who else is on it? There's a couple of tracks on it. That's a good song.
50 was on that too, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Probably in the remix.
Maybe it was on the remix. I'm about to listen to it. Seems like you'll probably do this.
Nah, you know what? I was meaning to play that the scenario on the way over, and the scenario remix, and then I got caught up with this silly song.
All right, Most High Christ, you're gonna leave this up there for just a couple of minutes, right? Leave it up there for a couple of minutes. Everybody that's watching that does not have these notes already should absolutely take these notes down. So I'm gonna leave it up there for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on to the next segment, and we'll keep it pushing. Make sure you're taking notes.
Swag, yes, sir. Is Foxy Brown the sister?
I can't, I don't know. After talking to Officer out there, I don't know who's the sister, who's the brother. I understand that. So I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. I would hope so.
For real.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and erase this. Once again, if you're watching online, you are able to rewind after the class, during the class, whenever you feel like you need to rewind, and you can get all of these notes. All right. We're gonna move on to the next subject, or the next segment, I should say. Same subject, new segment. We're gonna be going over a couple of sentences, right? And these are just, once again, these are just practice sentences. All right. All right, so we're just gonna go over a couple of practice sentences, using some names. So we're gonna have the subject. The subject is gonna be, our forefathers. So a couple of them I might use David. A couple of them I might use, Joseph or whatever the case is, right? All right, so let's just get started, right? So let's just use this, right? Because now we're doing imperfect, which is past tense. So we're gonna do let's see, Joseph ruled in Egypt. All right. Joseph ruled in Egypt, did he not? He did, right? Of course, he found favor in the Most High's sight. Because that's the case, he found favor in Pharaoh's sight. And Pharaoh made him second in command, goddamn, like a, basically like a vice president. You know what I'm saying? Joseph ruled in Egypt. Who did not rule in Egypt? David. David didn't rule in Egypt. I just say did not. All right. Now these are full sentences. They got the subject, predicate, verb. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. Subject, predicate, verb, all of that. Got everything, right? These are full sentences. And when I want everybody to understand this. When I put these full sentences up here, they're not concrete, meaning you can change the subject. You can change David. You can change Egypt. You can change the verb, which is rule. You can change all of these things, and that's how you're going to be able to formulate your sentences. And if you actually take enough time on it, right, and use these examples, you can plug the vocabulary words that we give you damn near every week into this sentence, and it's a whole new sentence. And it's exactly what you want to say. It's in Hebrew. You want to be able to do that, all right? Let me see. Okay. I want to say, I hate Jesus. I'm not gonna use Christ for this specific one just because I hate writing in English. Like not like that. Let's do. All right, I'm gonna do this just for teaching's sake, right? So the subject is really it's kind of staying the same, right? Gotcha. So how we're gonna do this is take a different color, right? So how we're gonna do this is we're gonna have in the black the English, and then in the I want to make sure I do something else. Let's make sure we underline the imperfect tenses, right? So we got will not, we got will, we got did, which is also an imperfect tense, and then we have ruled, which is also an imperfect tense. Okay, I want to underline those so that everybody can understand the tense of these sentences, right? These phrases. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate these into the Hebrew. So you have Joseph ruled in Egypt, right? So Joseph's name in the Hebrew is Yahweh. So now Yahusab is Joseph's name in the Hebrew. Rule is what? Rule. It's rule. Was king.
Malak.
Malak. Same term that's used for king, the same term that's used for rule, which is Malak. All right. So Yahusab, Malak, Ba, Matazarian. Right? All right. That's to say Joseph ruled in Egypt, right? The Ba will tell you what's in, right? Matazarium is Egypt. Okay? Very simple. All right. And of course it's a true statement, right? You go back to the book of Genesis and the book of, well, mainly the book of Genesis, right? You'll see that Joseph found favor in the sight of Pharaoh. He ruled in the land of Egypt, in the land of his oppressors, right? Which, we can do that too, by the way. So we aim to do in the ISUPK, but we are doing it in All right. Now, David did not rule in Egypt. He didn't. He wasn't a ruler in Egypt like Joseph was. So now, David's name in the Hebrew, Dawidah, La'ah, which means not or no, right? Now, that's the difference. That's it, right? Now, all right, that's the difference. It's literally the same sentence, but that la'ah means that he did not. Because la'ah means not or no, right? So now, same thing. You want to remember these types of things, right? Because now you have the past tense or the imperfect tense ruled, right? Here with the D at the end, ruled. And then in in the next sentence, you have did not rule. Hebrew is a lot simpler than that. Because you don't need to add extra words. When I say extra words, I mean a bunch of extra words to say, yeah, this person did not do that. It's just la'ah. That's the only difference in these two sentences. You got two extra words in the English, right? But in the Hebrew, it's just one extra word, which means no or not. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be, crazy, ridiculous, right? All right, so now the next one we got, David will rule in Egypt, right? These are very, and I'm gonna highlight these things. Very simple differences. All right. All right. Very simple. So now what you see here is Yamalak. That's the difference, right? So now we have, of course, we have Yawasab here. Change the subject from Yawasab to Dawadah down here for David. Right, Dawadah, Yamalak, Ba Matazari, which means David will rule. So he didn't rule. So now this is what we want to make a difference of. Okay? We make a difference of these things. Right? What you have on top is imperfect tense, right? What you have on bottom is future tense. On top, imperfect or past tense. On the bottom, you have future tense. Things that have not happened yet, right? Things that have not happened yet, and that's kind of what's important in making the differentiation between these two. Okay. Now, of course, Edom will not rule in Egypt. Why? Because Obadiah, the first chapter, the only chapter, and the 10th verse says that they're going to be cut off forever, so they don't get to rule the goddamn thing. All right. So Edom is what? In the Hebrew.
Out of one.
Out of one.
All right, that's the it's really simple. You know what I'm saying? It's extremely simple, right? And I did this because the way that I had this class set up, and the way that I had this breakdown set up, I used David for all 4 of these sentences. What I wanted to do was to show you that you can plug in different names for each one of these. For each one of these, right? You just have to know what the names are. So, for instance, I know Yawasop is Joseph in the Hebrew, right? I know that Edom is Adawam in the Hebrew. Now, let's just say, who else? I don't know. Solomon. You know what I'm saying? If you want to say Solomon instead of David, his name is Shalamah in the Hebrew. So now you can plug his name in there, right? And he did not do what? He did not rule in Egypt. Now, this is what understanding these classes and being in these classes gives you the freedom to do. You can change this whole sentence. This is a regular sentence. Now, what you could say, let's just keep David, right? So now you have David or Dawadah in the Hebrew. Did not. So now you know how to say did not is la'ah, right? Now, let's just say this, right? David did not remember Israel. You can say that whole thing. And so now this is totally different context. Right now we have David did not rule in Egypt, right? But now you can also say David, or you can say Solomon. Let's just say Solomon for argument's sake. Shalamah la'ah, if you follow our classes and you understand our vocabulary words, the term for remember is zakar. So Shalamah la'ah zakar Israel, which is Yasha'alah. Shalamah la'ah zakar Yasha'alah. It's that simple. When you can start to do that, you can now start to formulate your own sentences. Hebrew is extremely easy, but it's so hard because we've been grown, we've grown up in a society where, you got bear, and bear. 3 different words sound the same, even with context, it's still confusing. You know what I'm saying? You got 2 and 2. 2 totally different words mean 2 totally different things. They sound exactly the same. Things like that. You know what I'm saying? American society and American English and British English, or whatever the hell you want to call it, wherever the hell it comes from, is confusing as hell. This actually is so much easier if you really think about it. Right? You was gonna say something?
Okay, sir. I was gonna say, like we're in America where we typically speak faster. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, really, if you think about it, the tongue that we speak here, which tongue anybody doesn't understand, Lashawan Qadash is holy tongue. Tongue is just language. You go back into into antiquity, and you understand the etymology. Tongue just literally means language. And this tongue in America is absolutely bastardized. It's a piece of garbage. It's stupid. People, even the so-called Mexicans that have to learn English as a second language, Spanish is a white language too. But English is even worse as a white language because they'll go into the fact that there are so many different variations to say certain different things, and it's not like it's so jammed up and mixed up, and it's just ridiculous. The point being this is easy to learn. English is hard to learn. With this, you can plug in. There's not that many variables here. You can plug in this subject and change it. And you can plug in this verb and change it. It's really simple, right? I actually probably end up doing a class specifically about how easy it is to, to be able to do this thing, right? I'm gonna leave this up here for just a second. I know I've been standing in front of it. Y'all trying to take notes, and then we'll move on to the next spot. Probably after that. And one thing too, I want to make sure everybody understands this. If you don't understand how to take this and turn it into that, you should really pay attention as to what the brother was putting up here earlier, right? When I called him up and he put it in the green and he put the Hebrew characters, he took these sounds, right? These English, these English letters, turned them into Hebrew characters. If you don't know how to do that, you got to make sure you reach out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's confusing to you. It's actually really easy to learn. You just might have to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna leave this up here for just a minute. And we'll move on to the next section, and then we'll probably close that after. All right. Let's see. All right, we're gonna move on. We're just gonna get one more segment of this this lesson. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of go over it quickly. I'm gonna go over some prepositions next. Well, really one preposition in specific, but we are going to go over a preposition, how to use it, and once again, you know anything about prepositions, anything like that. When you understand how to use prepositions in the Hebrew, you'll understand that you can plug in different prepositions into the same format that I'm about to lay out. What I'm about to do is I'm about to lay out a format. There's going to be a format that I lay out for prepositions. Any preposition that works, right? That's the beauty of Hebrew. It ain't got to be all ridiculous.
So like, sir. So like ad-lib?
Basically, yeah. You know, it fits in there. Throw it in there. You know what I'm saying? All right. We do some prepositions. We're gonna do just for today, for time's sake, we're only going to do the preposition with. What do you think about English as a whole, right? One of the most commonly used prepositions, one of them, there are plenty of prepositions. One of the most commonly used prepositions is with, right? You also have, a bunch of other ones like in, or you know what I'm saying, all of those things, right? So, but we're gonna do this one, right? So with by itself, with is ein. That's what with is, all right? So now, that's the rule. That's what that is. That's the rule right there. That's what you're gonna. The with by itself, that's the rule that you're gonna go off of, right? So now we're gonna have to go over with you, with them, with her, with him, right? That's what we're gonna get some of these terms from, right? All right. So now we're gonna do with you. All right. So with you would be, and this is both for male and female, right? I'm ka. So you have the ka, which is you. Now, like I said, that's for male and female. There is no separation between the two. All right. All right. With him, I'm wa. The wa is what makes the difference. All right. With her, I'm gonna just. Well, I'll do it like this. I'm what? Once again, that that's the rule. Meaning that doesn't change. Always that. When you're talking about with something. What changes is what's added on to that I'm, right? All right, so now with us,
So now we have with us. This is the difference. Now, we have Nawa, which is us. To za, you add in there as well. Right? With this specific thing, like I said, this is universal with all prepositions. It's the same. You know what I'm saying? So with us, it's taza I'm, excuse me, taza I'm nawa, or taza I'm nawa, however you want to pronounce that. Right? Let's get a couple of more. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to show you. So with you, I'm ka is proper, meaning you can use that with a male or a female. I'm going to show you now the difference, right, between, if you want to be more specific, right? This is what I mean by more specific. Now, this is going to be plural, right? Plural. And now, of course, in English, when you say with you, I could be talking to you specifically, or I could be talking to an entire room of people. In the Hebrew, the plurality of that, there's a different term that you want to use. That's why I said be more specific, right? Plural for males, right? Plural for males. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Right. So for males, it would be I'm come. Right? So now plural for women, I'll just do F for female. I'm kind. So those are some of the differences. I'll do with them as well, just so you have all of them, right? All right, so the way that I have this laid out, right, is so for with them, obviously with them it's always plural. You're talking about more than one person, right? So I have I'm hum and I'm hun, right? And they're labeled, right? So now of course you'll be able to see I'm hum is for male, I'm hun is for female, right? Let's see. All right. All right, so this is real simple, right? All right, so we want to make sure that we make the correlation in the Hebrew. This is the last set of words and the last set of phrases that we're going to go over today. All right, so I want to make sure that we get these in the Hebrew as well. All right, so if I could have you out, go ahead and you're saying use the green, whatever color, in the ancient Hebrew only, but for right now. All right.
Green ancient Hebrew.
All right, I'm gonna leave it up there for just a couple of minutes, and we'll move on. All right. With that, that's going to be the class for the day. The class for the day, of course, was we were able to touch on imperfect tense and a couple of the other tenses. We were able to touch on future tense as well, right? Once again, these things are extremely important. If you really give a damn about following your heritage, you must give a damn about every part of your heritage. So now, of course, if you're an Israelite, like Hispanic or Native American, and you notice you're an Israelite, you should not only be focused on diving into the scriptures and understanding the scriptures, you should also be focused on this here, because this means something not only to you, it should mean something to you, but if it doesn't, it definitely means something to the Most High. Scripture said that the Most High is going to turn to us our pure language. He's going to return to us our heritage. Our heritage is this thing here, man. You get what I'm saying? So it's a damn shame that, that I have to teach, and I'm not an expert, you know what I'm saying? I'm nothing crazy like that. But it's a damn shame that I have to teach brothers and sisters that are grown their natural language, their tongue, their native tongue. You know what I'm saying? It's a shame. And the reason why that I have to do that in the first place is because the white man has stolen that from me. You know what I'm saying? They've taken, for instance, if you look to my right, your left, this is Syrian Hebrew. That right there is what you read. Well, excuse me, not what you'll read. What the so-called Jewish man will read as a rabbi, whatever the hell he want to call himself, because I'm not calling him that. As a rabbi, whatever the hell, right? He'll read that, and he'll use this as an excuse. He'll make words out of this language. He'll make words out of this script here, and he'll say that it's okay to suck a baby's penis. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that because it might come as a shock to some people. It's true. Those rabbis, on the 8th day when they circumcise them babies, it's nowhere in the Bible. It's in their script that they wrote with this language here, and said, "Hey, we got to also, the rabbi, the priest, got to gargle wine in his mouth and suck the baby's penis when he sucks the foreskin off. That's retarded, and that's not black culture. They have stolen your black culture and turned it white, and that's why now they're sucking baby penises. This is the truth. I mean, I don't make these things up. You can go and you can. It's called a moil, all right? That's what it's called. It's called a moil. You can go and you can look it up in your Google. That's what a moil is. A moil is somebody who, because of something that some white man wrote in our language, said, "Oh yeah, we got to suck baby penises when they get their bride circumcised." It's ridiculous. It's not of the Most High, but they've stolen your language to do their dirt. That's the problem. We have to understand that, and we have to realize, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we ain't got nothing else to hold on to. This is one of the things that we should hold on to. We should hold on to our language. Not only to just the way we dress, you get what I'm saying? Not only the headscarves, not only the headbands, not only the mitris, but we should also hold on to some more of our culture as much as possible. It just so happens that what I'm teaching you today is our culture. You want to say something?
Love you, sir. I just looked up what you were talking about, sir, and it comes up right away.
It comes up right away.
And
it's normal to them.
And it details them sucking blood from the baby's circumcision wound, which we know is on the penis.
You know how many, listen, now, is that only happening in Jerusalem? Is that only, that's happening here. Specifically in New York. There were 80 babies. Now, granted, they're what you call it? They're white babies. Mm-hmm. My thing is, it doesn't matter how much I hate the white man. It doesn't matter. Rape is wrong. Molestation is wrong. I don't give a goddamn if you have been the enemy of my people for thousands of years, which is what the white man has been to black people. I don't care. You don't deserve to be raped. Rape is a totally different level. Molestation is a totally different level.
deserve to be killed. That's a different thing. I'm saying that's you know what I'm saying. But point being, let me shut the hell up. Point being is this: there were 80 children that were diagnosed with HIV/AIDS because that moil, that so-called rabbi, that Jewish man that tries to speak our language and fails at it, he sucked their penis. And that's just the truth. And so I'm not saying this to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this, because Barack said it. I'm not saying it because I read it, in some, tabloid somewhere. These are real facts that happen. And they are trying to take your culture, black man, and turn it into a devious, just disgusting thing. They've taken your culture, your language, and they've translated it into, you got low baby fries. I'm saying, so like it to say it like that. But that's literally what they're doing. You get what I'm saying? The point is, the scriptures say this: woe to them that turn light into dark and turn good into bad. You know what I'm saying? For you know what I'm saying, to paraphrase. That's what they've done. You know how they've been able to do it? Because they took hold of your culture. They took hold of this thing. They took hold of this language. They took hold of this language that you see here. They took your language. Not only did they do that, they took what they think is the covenant of the Most High. But little do they know that you are still in the covenant with the Most High. Although you've broken it, Jeremiah 31:31 says you broke that thing. You broke the covenant. The Lord is going to make a new covenant with you. That's what this is a part of. We're in that new covenant now. That's why now you're being reintroduced your language. That's why now you're being reintroduced how to speak your language. How you're being reintroduced on how to wear these fringes, not on your t-shirt, on your pants, on your garment. That's where you're supposed to wear your fringes. You're being reintroduced on how to serve the Most High God. And that's part of that new covenant. So my point of bringing all of those things out is you should never, ever, ever look at these things and say, well, one is more important than the other, because they're not. You learning your language is just as big as you learning how to serve the Most High God. It's just as big as you learning how to break down the scriptures. It's just as big as you learning how to understand the Daniel prophecies, to understand the Revelation. You know what I'm saying? You want to make sure that you do these things. Check into our classes. Learn your culture, because your culture is not just the Bible. Your culture is also the way that you live. The way that you're supposed to live according to the Most High. You're supposed to speak His language that He gave you. You're supposed to dress like Him, and you're supposed to think His thoughts. Right? So with that, I'm going to close out the class. If you look at the bottom of the screen, we have our class schedule. Tomorrow, of course, every Saturday, 10 a.m. If you're in the Phoenix area, you should come get down with us. You know what I'm saying? We'll be having the Sabbath service. All right. Our next upcoming High Holy Day will be in September. In September, we're going to be having the memorial of the blowing of trumpets. You can read that in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Come get down with your brothers, man. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are more than welcome to come get down with us. Because trust me, that's all we got. That's all we give a damn about. We don't give a damn about Christmas or any of those other holidays or getting together with the heathen. We want our brothers and our sisters. All right, with that, shalom.